Hello everyone, Scott Scoot Belmont, your favorite coach and analyst here with another video. And this one has been a long time coming because I've had many messages on, emails and Twitter and a few on Twitch saying like, hey, I want to be an analyst too, where can I get my start? Or how do you make a write-up? Or, what do you look for when people want to make a write-up for analytical work? So I just want to start off by, starting small, saying when you do want to become an analyst, you kind of have to be those silly Twitter analysts that Freak loves to make fun of, or the Reddit analysts that everyone bitch about in every single thread. But that's kind of where you get your start, because you have to, go into those threads, post your thoughts, post the statistics, see what other people think about what you're writing, and if you actually get good, constructive, actionable feedback, then that can help you bolster it up. Then you can start posting things on Medium. Maybe you'll get noticed by a small website, and they'll be like, hey, post analytical stuff for us. Or maybe you can go to a team and work with them specifically as an analyst, because I know a lot of NA and EU amateur teams, or even Latin American teams if you speak Spanish as well, they're always looking for people to help them out, and it's always going to be free work to start out, but a little bit down the road that is where you get the paid money, where working with the bigger, better teams, getting the big bucks, you get the jerseys and all that. And this is kind of going to segue into the next thing, which is I'm currently working with Analytical Esports, and this is an example of work that I had to write for Denian, the head coach, wherein we were preparing for Sin Academy a few weeks ago, and he basically wanted to write up on the game, and of course what I have could also use improvements, but I'm also going to preface this by saying every single coach and every single person is going to want something different. So this is just an example of what this one coach wanted, and an example of what I like to do as an analyst, and I will pull it up now. It's basically a big write-up on, what they did in every game. This one is versus the Outlaws, this one is versus the Lynx, and it kind of just goes game to game, and I'll explain each little bit of it. So this is what I like to do in my write-ups. You might want to do something different for yourself. You might be more comfortable doing something different. You might get asked to do something different, but this is just what I did, and even then, again, it could still use a lot of work. So I started it off with a TLDR of all of my findings, and even at the end, I just have another TLDR of the TLDR. Overall, they have a tight defense and an offense with a few exploits, but similarly to the Sin game, we could also take an early lead and subsequently punish Sin's attempts to regain vision control, and obviously that's a typo. That's already one mistake I've made. So if you want to pause and read through all of this and see basically what I found out through all of my watching VODs and everything, then that could probably be helpful to you. But if you don't know the OCS, which is the Oceanic Challenger team, where Atletico is, and Sin Esports, and all these other teams I'm going to be referencing, this is OCS, Australian and New Zealand and other oceanic islands, Oceania. Yeah, you get what I'm saying. Alright, so I followed it off. I followed the TLDR with just going straight into Game 1 versus Outlaws, and I lined it up. This was Sin's comp, Rumble, Kha'Zix, Lucian, Ashe, Karma, and then this was the Outlaws comp. Whoopsies. Then this was the Outlaws comp, Lulu, Lee Sin, Draven, Jinx, Nami. So already the coach knows, alright, these were the two comps. This is the patch that it was on, so we have more reference as to why these picks were chosen. And then I started off by saying the win conditions for Sin Academy are yada yada blah blah blah. Make sure they don't fall behind early to the early game Draven, because if they do, then Jinx is going to be a massive piece of shit that they're going to have to deal with. So it's basically win the mid to early game using Rumble, Kha'Zix, Lucian, Ashe, and Karma to have nasty team fights, and if they can't do that, then they will lose. And I put the win condition first, so I can then later call back to, did they play to their win condition? Did they fall behind in reference to their win condition? How did they react when they did fall behind in their win condition? And so on. So down here, I listed out the early to mid game. I followed the early jungle path of the Sin Jungler, and you could see all of these little blue links, and those lead to screenshots that I have of different wards that were placed. So I said, oh, when Sin did this, they placed a ward right here outside of the dragon pit that wasn't noticed. And then a little bit further down, I have Ka walks over the Scuttle Crab vision and wards here before ganking mid. Here being where this screenshot is going to lead us, wards right here before ganking mid. And it gives kind of a better reference to, alright, this is where they like to ward at these times. So this is just something that helps out, because instead of typing and wards behind the red buff and top side of jungle, you just cut all of that down to here. And it saves a lot of space, it saves a lot of reading, and it's better to show than tell in a lot of situations. I know I also have some Twitch clips in here somewhere, but you know, that you can save for later. I'm gonna put the link to this write-up in the description. So here's another example. His third counter gank top at 1430, which results in an overcommit, and it shows, you know, how they stayed in too long, and now, oh no, Sin is about to die. I even took the screenshot when he was at like 2 HP. Look at that. They overcommitted, they fought, they lost. It was a 2-for-1. And I just kind of go on and describe how they move throughout the early game, which will give us more insight into, alright, if they have Kha'Zix, which is an early game jungler, then how does that Kha'Zix react? Where does he gank? Then I list out the mid to late game. In response to losing Dragon, Kha'Zix places a ward behind bot lane, yada yada blah blah blah. While they disengage to the mid lane, here's another screenshot. And it's basically more map movements, how, and in the mid to late game where, you know, laning phase is basically over, I try to prioritize writing about, you know, what they prioritize as far as the neutral objectives go. And if you list out like, oh, they didn't actually attempt to do Dragon at 20 minutes with this type of comp, then you can kind of see they play a lot more conservative. And if you see it's a trend between every single game, you can say, oh, they just play really conservative around the Dragon. That was something I discovered when I was scouting out Outlaws, wherein they basically did not try to focus the Dragons, but instead always went for Herald or something like that. I don't actually remember off the top of my head, but I could go back and find it if I could actually find it. And again, versus Lynx, the same thing, and it kind of all adds up to see why I said what I said in my original TLDR. Now again, someone else is going to want something differently. For example, when I was the judge for the analyst competition for lol-coaching.com, all of the write-ups were pretty similar in the regards to how I kind of wrote this up. Let me see if I can find those actually. I should have had those pulled up earlier, but let's see, I did not use this email address for it. Or maybe I did. Alright, I'm gonna skip that for now and go back to it. But this is another example of when I was working with CLG and I was working with Blurred Limes. When he was the head coach, this is when they went to Worlds season... it was when Doublelift was still with the team. I want to say season 4 Worlds. I'm pretty sure that's when it was. But again, this is another example of work I had to do. This is what Blurred Limes wanted from me as an assistant analyst. So this is what I presented to him. And in a previous video when I mentioned becoming an analyst, I said you had to make it look pretty. This is not very pretty, but it does show the information that I wanted to get across. Now, this is a pick and ban chart for when they went to Worlds and their opponents were the Flash Wolves, the Coup Tigers, and Pain Gaming. And this was all on the most recent patch, so there isn't a very big pool. But what I tried to do was, in this chart, I listed out, alright, they're on red side, you can see by the color. They have their picks, and they have their bans all listed out here. And you can see Rumble banned a billion times, infinitely. And they also have, you know, their picks. And I did it first rotation and not first pick, second pick, because each rotation is different for each side. And I wanted to list out, what do they normally pick within the first rotation no matter what, red side or blue side, and it kind of evened out between top and support, with jungle, mid, and ADC being lower on the bracket. Then in the second rotation, whether they are red or blue side, it's predominantly ADCs and supports again, and then they always save their mid pick for last, or will most likely save their mid pick for the last rotation no matter what. And this is slightly weak analytically because it kind of shows just the random pick ban tendencies of other teams. Well, not random, but their own calculated pick ban and tendencies. This one's a little different because this was back when Korea still had blind picks, so I was just typing out, oh yeah, this is what they friggin' blind picked Malphite Yasuo comp. How long ago was this? But yeah, this is looking back, this is pretty weak analytically, like on its own, because it only really shows, oh, this is what they picked and banned, and it's like, yeah, I could look that up myself, and as a coach, I would not want someone to present this to me, because I already do my best to take note of what other people are already picking and banning, and instead of actually like listing out every single pick individually, like, oh, they ban mid lane most of the time, I'm gonna look at my own team and say, oh, they're probably gonna ban Yasuo against us because our mid laner is a Yasuo one trick, so of course it's gonna be chalked up in the mid lane bans. I can expect them to ban mid laners on top of the fact that my mid laner is already a one trick. So again, if you're working with a different coach, this might be something they want to present. This might be something that they might want to see. And if they do want to see something like this, again, it is kind of weak, but in my opinion. But again, do your best to make it look good. This is a pretty clear, straightforward chart. Which game is it? Oh, it's the wild card 1, 2, and 3, quarterfinal 1, 2, 3, semifinal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, where they blind picked and did everything, and it looks like they didn't make it to the finals. So we know that somewhere in here versus KT Rolster, they didn't make it to the finals and they lost out. Whereas with Pain Gaming, they just won all 3 finals. Their bans are all the same, so which is why this is analytically weak. Because with such a small sample size, you're going to get Fiora and Victor bans, which will skew heavily towards, oh, look at that. They banned 7 top laners and 6 mid laners and 5 supports in however many games. So it's a small sample size and it's not going to work. It will work with bigger sample sizes, such as the LCS as we already know it today, where each team is playing like 20 best of 3s and can play upwards of 60 games, that kind of thing. So you might be able to pick out more tendencies there, but in my opinion, the opponent's pick ban is obviously gonna be more reliant on your team specifically. So even if you can find, oh, they really love banning top laners, well, if you have a good top laner, of course they're gonna ban a top laner. So me bashing my own work here is kind of counterproductive, but it still kind of makes sense to me, if you can get what I'm saying. But right now, I'm going to try to find some of those write-ups from a long time ago. Oh, actually, here's another good example. Well, this is not by me, this is by Mr. Mondalcio, who used to work for CLG. I actually did something similar to this myself for Ashe, but this is a long time ago. This is just... yeah, if you want to go back on the Reddit threads and look up Mr. Mondalcio Jin, you can find it there and find his explanations too. But he shared this with me looking for feedback before he actually posted it. And it's basically just a really long presentation on, itemization of Jin and his DPS charts and all that, which this is good for the public at large, but is not going to be good for a specific team that you're working with. So, again, keep in mind who wants this work that you're posting, who is going to be most interested in, well, something like this. Again, the entire community is going to love, oh wow, all of these damage charts for Jhin. Now I know if Jhin is a good pick with these items and all of this stuff. So, something like this is going to be great if you post it to our Summoner School or our League of Legends, where, everyone will need this. But if you're already with a team and they already know the best build for Jhin, You're not going to need to build something as big and beautiful and complicated as this. Again, shout out to Mr. Mondalcio, former CLG. I don't know where he is now, but I would really love to see him continue to succeed. And if I can't find these videos, not videos, if I can't find these write-ups within the next few minutes, then I'm just going to skip it. And here we go. Analyst competition. This was round 2 or 3, I imagine, where we had to play the competitors, the analysts, had to select their own game to cover and basically do what I did for an individual team here, like I did with Outlaws, but a little more in-depth and only on one game. So again, he does the same thing I kind of did, where they list out, alright, this is what their team comps are and this is what their bans were. He goes a step further and explains the bans, like these were the Team Liquid bans and these were the Cloud9 bans. You know, they banned Lulu because Piglet with a Lulu is crazy and they don't want to see that. And he goes through step by step with every single pick. Oh, this is not a full team review. This is just a pick and ban review. I think this was round 1 though. So this is really well done. This is I'm honestly don't remember if this went to the next round or not, but this is another well done example of if someone wants a pick and ban report on a team, and you know, this is pretty well done. I'm gonna put the link to this one as well in the description, so you could take a look at that. Shout out to this guy, Shivas, for making this and for staying in my Google box so I can look it up again. But yeah, you can see that it is very well spaced. It looks very nice, and again, back to when I said you gotta make it look pretty, this looks very nice. You can see, you can scroll to any part, even though it is only 3 pages, and see exactly where you are. Whereas with mine, you know, you can't really tell just by looking at it straight away. Like, right here, where am I? So that's something I can take myself. I can kind of make it prettier, like looking closer. Oh, at 4250. At 4250 for what? I have to scroll back up. Oh, 4250 versus Lynx. So, I mean, I can even take something from this as well. This looks really nice, and it's all spaced out evenly. And this is definitely something that, although again would not be useful to me if I were a coach, might be useful to someone else who is saying, all right, we are playing against X team next week. I want to know why they had this pick and ban style against this exact team. See if we can pick anything out of it that might be relevant to us. So if you come up here and say, oh, they banned Lulu because the ADC is really good. Well, our ADC is really good. Do you think they'll stay with the Lulu ban? You write that down as a possibility. And I actually have one more older example of work that I might want to bring up if I remember where I put it. I think it might be in my YouTube folder. If I were smarter, I would have just gone back and edited this differently. But let's see. Alright, I can't find it right. Oh wait, no, here it is. DreamHack versus Noble 1. This is the first analytical work I did where with DreamHack Gaming, where I wrote up, and you know, my fucking handwriting is god awful, but if you can read this, like you can see at the top, should have left up Sejuani. Obviously I made a mistake in picks and bans. So I listed out our bans are going to be, you know, these are all of the possible bans we can have. Their bans are definitely going to be one of these things. I put little squiggles next to the things I wasn't really sure about because I didn't know if I wanted to take them away or not. And I wrote down here, alright, if they ban Shyvana, or if they ban Janna, ban Lissandra and Lulu support, or if they ban Gragas, if they ban Janna, Lissandra, Maokai, that kind of thing. It's a little difficult to follow, and I haven't actually looked at this in years, but looking back at it, it kind of makes sense. These are our bans, and I circled the ones that I wanted to ban out. I put a star next to Gragas because I knew we wanted to ban Gragas. I put a star next to Sion because I knew they would want to ban Sion. And then the rest of it, it's like, alright, how do we formulate a plan around what we have right here? So I write out what we want. We want Morgana Janna. as our support. Oh, it looks like I was trying to make protect the Kog'Maw comp, and I remember this game now because we lost terribly. So what we want: Morgana, Janna, Jinx, Cog, Orianna, Nunu, Lulu, Maokai, top. So backups for each of these positions. Backup for Morgana, Janna would be Lulu. Backup for Jinx and Kog'Maw, Lucian, Graves. And I put stars next to priority, like, oh, if Lucian is up and Jinx and Cog don't look good, we take the Lucian. If they, yeah, our backup strat right here is if they ban Janna and first pick Morgana, which they didn't ban Janna, and they first picked Morgana, so we went along with the Janna, then we would change up our strategy to Nautilus, Lucian, Rek'Sai, something along those lines. So first rotation, I wrote out, alright, first rotation, we want Morgana Nunu if they leave up Morgana and take Sejuani. Unfortunately, I banned Sejuani because I got a little flustered. We take Janna Nunu if they take Morgana, which they did, so I put a check mark next to Janna Nunu. We took Janna Nunu. Second rotation, let's see. We wanted Lulu absolutely if they keep it up, so we took Jinx Lulu. I didn't put a check mark next to anything, so I'm going to assume we took Jinx Lulu because that's at the top right there. And then last pick, Orianna, which we actually did get. And we got the protect comp that we wanted, and unfortunately, you know, bad things happened because we were playing with a mid laner who was our backup. Yeah, he was our backup mid laner. He got hit by every single Morgana Q, tilted off the face of the earth, and we lost that game. But again, this is just another example of me as a coach. This is what I wrote up in preparation for picks and bans, and this is, you know, something that you might see, or in where Lemon Nation has his notebook, or whoever has the notebook right now. I know Lemon Nation used to be the meme, but this is something that you might see in a coach's notebook where, alright, these are what we want, this is exactly what we want, but if something changes or something drastic happens, this is our backup plan where we just pick all the OP picks and win the game like that. So hopefully that gave you a little bit of a good insight into, you know, what can go into analytical work and what can look good, look bad. My work kind of looks bad right now, but it is that is what the coach asked for, so that's what I'm going to give him. Of course, I could always go above and beyond what the coach asked for, which that was mostly laziness on my part, which I will admit. Whereas this other guy from the analyst competition, he put in a little bit more work because he knew that, you know, there was money on the line for this. This might get him a step up in becoming an analyst. I don't know if Shivas is an analyst for any team right now, but if he is, then, you know, his work definitely shows. But if he's not, then I hope he's doing something he enjoys. And that's going to be it from me. This is the part of video where you can log off and wipe my face away from the screen. Thank you again for watching. This is Coach and Analyst Scott Scoot Belmont, and just want to let you all know that I really appreciate all the time you're putting into watching my videos, following me on Twitter. I greatly appreciate it all, and it's definitely going to help me, you know, get above and further beyond. And I can't really say it more. I really appreciate everything you guys are doing for me. And I'm almost at 100 subscribers on YouTube, so when I do get to 100 YouTube subscribers, I'm going to be doing a Steam game giveaway. It is the game that I used to work on, the game that I did work on when I was with an indie game studio. It's called Dragonfin Soup, so, I mean, a lot of you subscribing are probably going to see that and be like, whoa, I don't want this giveaway, get that away from me. But I still have like 5 keys that I just have not been able to get rid of because nobody wants this friggin' game, I swear to God. But if you want, like, it's not even, it looks pretty, it's really, like, good if you ignore story mode completely and just dive straight into survival mode, because that's where it's the most roguelike. But it's a very nice looking game whose mechanics are, you know, average for a game of this caliber, and the story is just ass, so I would recommend just skipping it completely. But you can still have a good time in story mode. I mean, I certainly had a good time for the 1,000 hours I was playtesting the game. Shout out to myself for the first person to ever beat the game. Ha ha ha, oh god, I'm so funny. But yeah, it doesn't have any Steam rewards, the achievements, Steam achievements. It doesn't have any of those, which sucks. Which me and the other playtesters tried to push for them, but it never happened. So, you know, indie gaming, just like Riot's small indie game studio, things happen that are outside of your control, and I still have all of these keys that I really need to get rid of because, I mean, I can only own the game once, and you know. So you could also follow my Twitch channel. I plan on doing something special for 200 Twitch followers as well. Twitter followers, I'm already above 200, so I guess the next milestone would be 500, though it's a slow climb, probably because I don't post too much content. So during this off season, I'm going to try to post more content, post a lot more VOD reviews, post maybe a little more analytical stuff if you guys are really into me trying to explain the thought process of a coach or an analyst. Or, you know, you can actually go back and look at VODs of me coaching my teams back when I was with them, and I don't have any things recently because I haven't been the head coach of any teams recently. But you know, if you do need any more advice, or if you want, you know, hey, where can I get my start, you know, you can always come to me, ask for advice. I leave my Twitter DMs open. I always get a few messages, maybe on average like once a week I'll have someone come in there. But yeah, I'm always out to hear you. And again, shout out to Shivas, shout out to Mr. Montalcio, shout out to all of you guys who are subscribing to me, and shout out to the 100th subscriber that is gonna give one lucky camper a key for a Steam game that has mixed reviews on Steam and a lot of people who wanted refunds. So thanks again for watching, everyone. I look forward to the next one.